be good.
This is good. Yeah, we like Alexander
We
Payne.
do. And I have some very fun things to talk about for what we've been watching.
Oh no. I think I have a French film, and God, what else did I watch? I watched a shitload of shitty student documentaries, if that is.
Oh boy. I'll continue the history of international film saga first.
Ooh.
But this week we watched a film from mainland China.
Mainland China. I don't think I have ever seen a mainland Chinese film.
I definitely had not, because most of the Chinese films you tend to experience, I think, come from Hong Kong.
Yeah, Hong Kong, that sort of experience.
But yeah.
Sometimes I'd imagine there's some from like the Taiwan periphery.
Yeah. There's a Taiwanese filmmaker who I've been meaning to check out for a while. It's just his movies are very long, but I imagine I'm going to enjoy them when I can finally sit down and experience them. He made a 4-hour movie that was only released on home video in the United States when Criterion put it out last year.
That's the thing about us. Like, length is what kills a movie. I'd like to see it. How long is it? I don't have time for it.
Well, that's the only reason I still haven't seen Seven Samurai, but...
The same reason I haven't seen Gone with the Wind.
Yeah. I have seen Gone with the Wind, actually. There was a time when I was totally and completely willing to just sit down and experience long-ass movies. That's when I saw Lawrence of Arabia. That's when I saw Gone with the Wind.
Yeah.
I saw Dr. Zhivago, which I'm itching to watch again, but man, I do not have the time.
Well, that's just like length didn't used to be an issue for me until I think it was college that made me think like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I don't have time for anything anymore.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so this movie we watched was directed by Zhang Yimou. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He just made that movie called The Great Wall, starring Matt Damon. This movie was much better than I assumed that movie was. This movie was called Raise the Red Lantern. It's a period piece about this woman who becomes this guy's concubine, basically. He's a very wealthy figure, and you never really like see his face. It's interesting. It's always like kind of either like out of focus or concealed in some way. Not like through like physicalness, but just through like the staging and everything. And so he has like 4 wives, and like they have this elaborate ceremony where they'll like light the lanterns. They all live in like separate houses on this guy's like huge property, and they like light lanterns at the house where he's going to spend the night every night. It's like this big elaborate thing, and not much happens, but it is kind of entertaining. Also kind of repetitive. I did enjoy it. I'm not sure I would ever watch it again.
It's really interesting.
It is interesting, and it has been kind of interpreted as a critique of the Chinese Communist Party in a way, but that doesn't really come to the fore in any way.
Nor could it. I will say the Great Wall just seemed like the most batshit crazy thing I've ever seen. So wide. Yeah, that movie's so fascinating because that's a case where it's like, did that movie do well?
I don't know. The reviews were not good, and I don't know if it was financially successful. Cause maybe I don't think anyone saw it over here. It might have done some good business in China.
Because that's the thing about it, is like it was the kind of film where it's like it was one of the few situations where I did not care what the critical reception was. I only cared about how much money it made.
That movie...
Because if it made money, we'd start getting more Chinese films, but they'd be Chinese films only in that it's Chinese filmmakers, that they'd be in English, and they'd have English actors in them, like Matt Damon.
This movie made $329 million worldwide. But it cost $150 million, so it was deemed a box office disappointment.
Yeah, we're not getting any more Chinese films anytime soon.
The crazy world of the film industry, where something can make $300 million and be considered a disappointment.
Yeah, well, that's just like marketing.
But
it's just so massive, isn't it? Like just take the budget and times it by 2 is how you incorporate the marketing. Like
basically.
that's just mind boggling to me.
Yeah. But let's get to the meat. Speaking of China, in a manner of speaking, not really though. Actually, I have finally embarked on the journey that is the Fast and Furious franchise. I have seen...
Where'd you start?
I have seen... this was probably not the way I should have done it, but my friend who has seen almost all of them insisted that we start from the beginning. So I've watched 2001's The Fast and the Furious and 2003's Too Fast, Too Furious.
So
that's the numeral 2 Fast and then another numeral 2 Furious.
And these movies have been kind of hyped for us. Like, the Vidians talk about them very often in a very loving manner.
It's very... Darren Franich and Clay Keller seem to be like the world's 2 biggest fans of the Fast and Furious movies. Yeah. Clay admits that like none of them up to the 5th one are legitimately good, but Darren seems to genuinely like love all of them, which after seeing the first one, I don't understand.
Well, like, isn't it? It seems like it's from like what I've seen. It just seems to be like every single boneheaded Michael Bay-esque action movie ever created,
but sincere.
Maybe that is the draw of it. Is like it's what Michael Bay would make if he weren't a horrible person.
Yeah. Well, let me say this. I have to imagine that this first movie, the Fast and the Furious, must look better after you've seen the rest of them. Like, I feel like it must be, like, just going, like, once you've seen, like, 5 and 6, like, all the actually good ones, which I haven't seen those yet, it must look...
It's at 5 that they started getting self-aware, right? And they just started doing parody. Is that what's going on there? I don't
think they started doing parody. They just, like, embraced the idea of just doing, like, big, goofy action movies with cars. Like, I understand that, like, 5 was, like, a turning point where they kind of moved away. Because these first 2 movies are about, like, street racing. Like, and it's such a weird, like, thing to structure a movie around. But let me track this from the beginning. So, The Fast and the Furious is a bad movie that I kind of enjoyed. Like... It's frustrating for me in the way that the early episodes of Doctor Who were frustrating because, like, I can see the potential and I know it's going to get better, like, once I get later, but I have to deal with the cheesiness and bad CGI and not great writing that comes with the early territory, but...
I have to watch a bad film.
Yeah. I did kind of enjoy it. There are fun parts. Parts of it are laughably bad. That is part of why it's enjoyable. Just the writing in this movie is very strange sometimes. And I think they talked about this on the Vidiots episode where they talked about this. I think their guest brought it up. But the character dynamics only make sense if everyone in the movie, except maybe Michelle Rodriguez, wants to fuck Paul Walker. That's the only way it makes sense. Everyone is so... amped up and in each other's faces all the time. It's so strange. And
these movies, man, they're an enigma.
And also, within 5 seconds, this movie immediately established itself as the most early 2000s thing I'd ever seen in my life.
We have like all the early 2000s pop
like
music.
A CGI title sequence with a bad hip-hop song playing over it, dissolving into, like, a yellow-colored shipping yard where a guy is, like, packing a truck full of Panasonic DVD players and combination DVD player TVs.
None of this sounds good.
This movie
sounds fascinating.
This movie is not good. The driving scenes are fun and kind of enjoyable. The first scene actually kind of reminded me of Fury Road. It's like a heist where drag racing cars like pull up alongside a huge truck and like shoot it with harpoon guns to like slow it down.
That is very Fury Road.
One gets like under the truck and like has to drive at the perfect speed to like keep from just going under the wheels.
What Christmas Vacation did as a joke.
Right. So that's The Fast and the Furious. And then last night, I watched Too Fast, Too Furious. A movie which does not star Vin Diesel, actually. I think the one thing most people know about Fast and Furious is Vin Diesel's in it, and he's not in this one.
Yeah.
Now, Too Fast, Too Furious is... I'm not sure it's a better movie, but maybe it is, actually. It's definitely more enjoyable. It's directed by John Singleton of Boys in the Hood fame, who did not do the first one, but I think it's self-aware. I think this movie is self-aware. Regardless of whether it is or not, it leans into being a goofy and fun movie. So there are some very over-the-top moments. The driving scenes are all cranked up to the early 2000s version of 11. Tyrese Gibson is Paul Walker's new kind of partner in crime in this, and he is great.
To me, this sounds like one of the more, like, a sweet spot of fascination, where you're watching, and every single second you're thinking, how did they conceive of this? Was it ironic? Was it unironic? Am I supposed to unironically enjoy it? Am I supposed to laugh at it? What am I supposed to do?
Oh,
what art house filmmakers conceived of this?
Oh, I left my ass off at the first one. That movie was... I think they've talked about this. Like the first movie was basically just a Point Break ripoff with cars.
Yeah, they have.
The second one, I don't think is meant to be taken seriously. It's like a weird, like, kind of undercover cop drama where, like, they have to bust a drug dealer, but like with cars. And there's a sequence where, like, there is a moment in this movie where they drive a car onto a boat, and I love boats, so that was just everything I'd ever wanted. Ava Mendes is in this movie.
They're doing romantic comedy, but with cars.
Too Fast, Too Furious is a very enjoyable movie. Is it good? I'm not sure, but I'm excited to go forward.
These movies sound fascinating.
I would say just skip right to 5 is my...
Skip right. That's what I'd skip right to 5, 6. Yeah, I'd probably just do that, because, like, I don't think I'd have the patience for all the early 2000-ness.
I imagine the only way to... Well, I don't know, but the first one, I think, must play better after you've seen the rest of them.
We're just gonna have to get, like, Clay Keller and Darren Franich on the phone and just tell them, like, what is it? Who made these movies and why?
Well, because Darren Franich seems to love even the first one, like, just unabashedly. And
yeah, they have no, like, qualifications in their love.
And I am skipping the third one, Tokyo Drift, because my friend hasn't seen it, and apparently, like, everyone says it's not that good. Apparently, Tokyo Drift was supposed to be a direct-to-video sequel that they just kind of bumped up to getting a theatrical release. And then afterwards, okay, this is according to my friend, but I think this is true. After that movie, after making 3 movies, they said, hey, let's step back and think about this. Before making... They took a 3-year break, made 2009's Fast and Furious, before which apparently is like a major, like, structural point in the films, before kind of rebranding themselves with Fast 5. So I am excited to go forward and hopefully see some legitimately good movies.
Fuck, where's, like, the clickbait YouTube video called The Lore of the Fast and Furious movies, where they go through both, like, the batshit crazy plot and all the production history?
Do you know the timeline of these movies, like the internal chronology?
No, I don't.
Okay, it goes 1, 2, 4, 5, 3, 6, 7, as I understand it. Actually, no. Maybe I'm wrong. I think 6 actually happens before 3. So it goes 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 3, 7, 8. I think they finally straightened themselves out where every movie now is going to come later in the timeline, but...
This sounds beautiful. Do I actually want to watch these now?
I might recommend getting inebriated and watching Too Fast, Too Furious some night.
These movies are just so not in my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Like, these are the exact opposite of the kind of films I like to watch. So it's kind of hard to be like, I'm going to watch The Fast and the Furious. Well, what else did you watch?
That was about it. So talk about what you've been watching.
Let's see. I watched Jacques Tati's Mon Oncle, My Uncle, which is a big, Technicolor, practically silent film. Which is, I think Jacques Tati's did Playtime, correct?
Yeah, I believe so.
Playtime, so yeah, that seems to be, his wheelhouse, is, put the camera in, a big, medium-wide shot, make it so you can't understand everyone, or as people aren't talking, and have, just it be, a big, goofy, silent movie about what he conceives as the monstrosity that is the modern day. What you get out of Jacques Tati's in this movie is that he just really hates modern architecture. Granted, all films viewed in a class setting, sometimes you just aren't paying attention because that's just what the class setting does to you.
Yes.
The whole, gist of the movie is that, there's this family who lives in this utter monstrosity of a house. It looks like something from the goddamn Powerpuff Girls. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the Powerpuff Girls deliberately pulled from this. There's, these ridiculous modernist pathways in the front. There's this fascinating fish fountain
you heard
that they keep turning on and off.
You heard it here first, folks. John is savvy enough to reference the architecture of the Powerpuff Girls.
Call me uncultured, but that's what I think.
Oh.
It's got the two big windows. It's pretty much just a square.
I would never call you uncultured, but go on.
Wait, thank you. Yeah, granted, the fish fountain is great because, she only turns it, the family only turns it on for important guests, and when it's, the mailman, you'll see them turn it on, realize who it is, and instantly turn it off. And then there's this plot about, they have, the wife's brother comes in, and, he is just so lost in this world. The movie's full of things, they give, there's all this modernist architecture, and you can't use any of it. It's just there to be looked at. They give him a chair, and it's completely unsittable, as you might, where he just, sinks into it and gets up and just grabs another chair. And, there are all these, monstrosity of creations in the kitchen, just full of automation. It is just this full, I hate consumer culture, I hate modern design. I think he once said, horizontal lines is not design. Or something akin to that. Because, and granted, I think that's just kind of the big joke, is that, look at, this horrible, horrible world that we've created full of consumerism and awful design. And it's really funny because, the Jacques Tati style of just keep it in a medium wide, just let the action unfold. It's practically a silent film because I don't think you're supposed to understand the dialogue. I think it's just half the time it's just supposed to be mumbling and things happen. There's a special subplot of dogs running about and ruining everything. That's practically what the movie ends on.
This sounds fascinating. I'm gonna have to see one of this guy's movies eventually. We rented Playtime from Vidiots and kept it for 3 weeks and never watched it, and then we had to return it.
I haven't seen Playtime, but from what I've heard, it follows the same kind of people interacting with the modern world in a way that both is critiquing it and just flat out mocking it.
Yeah, and it's just the prospect of watching a 2-hour plus French quasi-silent movie was not something that immediately appealed to me, but I'll look into it. Apparently this guy is kind of a master of the form.
Yeah. Mon Oncle is a bit is shorter. I don't think it is. I don't think it's 2 hours. I think I can't remember what the length is. I think it might be anywhere from 90 to 90 minutes to 2 hours. But it's really funny. The fish fountain alone is just a masterpiece of a gag. And I would just I'd highly recommend. I think it's a lot of fun, and it's really pretty because like it's just this gorgeous Technicolor feast for the eyes, and like everything's like it's the '60s, so everything's primary colors and contrasting and so forth. So yeah, I really liked Mononco.
Oh, good.
Shit, what else did I watch? I think that's it.
All right. Well,
I think that's it for now. Like, if something pops back into my head, I will say it.
All right. Well, let's get to the main event here, which is
Payne!
Alexander Payne, a filmmaker who, I'm not sure he's like in the canon of the great directors. He's not someone most people would immediately think of. But
I think Sideways might be in the canon.
Sideways is definitely up there. I think a lot of people like it. I was listening to the CinemaSins podcast, and apparently some of them ride very hard for Sideways.
Like Doug Walker rides really hard for Sideways, too. He references it constantly in his reviews.
Early 2000s movies are kind of my biggest blind spot, because that was like the time right before I got into movies, so it's the era I've kind of gone back and explored the least.
Yeah, it's and also like this is just something that happens. Like it is something that is like a historical era that has passed.
Yeah,
but we haven't passed enough time, so it's difficult to see it as a historical era and see it as nothing but dated.
Yeah,
so like it's difficult to go back and look at that.
Yeah, but Alexander Payne, he's made just kind of a handful of movies. But they've all...
Looks like there's some like huge... Isn't there like a huge break between The Descendants and like what he made... What did he make before The Descendants?
Sideways. See, there was a 7-year break. He made Sideways in 2004. The Descendants came out in 2011. So yeah, there was a 7-year break. But I was going to say, like, all his movies have been very well received. He's a critical darling. There's like one movie that I haven't really heard of, but it was his first movie. His second movie was Election, which was kind of his breakout, and he made About Schmidt, he made Sideways, he made The Descendants, and then he made Nebraska. And actually, he's got a new movie coming out in this year and in December.
Oh, what is it?
It's a sci-fi movie called Downsizers. Apparently, it was written during that 7-year gap with his old writing partner Jim Taylor. So,
intrigued.
Yeah.
I am. So yeah, he makes movies. It's kind of hard. I don't know if he hates America or not. because the setting, he like chooses like white trash locations all the time. It's always like these like awful like old restaurants and like this awful like rural neighborhoods and awful main street cities. And there was just not there's not an ounce of sentimentality in these locations. There's not an ounce of like, hey, isn't this just a nice place to be?
I don't think
even in Sideways there's a bit of that.
I don't think he hates America. I think he has kind of an antipathy toward the kind of people, not antipathy. He makes movies about people that tend to be not super likable, that often have kind of difficult lives, often are kind of struggling against their own, I guess, mediocrity in a weird way.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. That's especially true in Sideways.
Yeah.
Yeah, but About Schmidt is the great of like is the great ennui movie that he's made. It's like all of these movies feature ennui in a certain regard. Maybe not Nebraska, but that's curious. It's like I am dissatisfied with my surroundings, yet I cannot break out of them.
Yeah. Well, I think Nebraska has some of that element. It's just kind of clouded in kind of the motivations of the characters. But
yeah, and just how like lost Woody is.
Yeah. I haven't seen About Schmidt. I probably will watch it at some point because I really liked all of these movies.
Yeah, oh yeah, About Schmidt is fascinating. Like it has all the Alexander Payne-isms. Yeah. And if that's what you're looking for.
And you have not seen The Descendants, correct?
I have not seen The Descendants, no.
Okay.
Is that also something I should definitely put on my radar?
I watched that on a plane and enjoyed it thoroughly, so yes, I would recommend that.
Okay, I think doesn't it have George Clooney?
It does, George Clooney. Whoa. And Shailene Woodley and basically no one else you've ever heard of.
Ooh, I shall look this out. Yes. I hope.
So,
where are we able to start?
I just want to run down Election real quick because I assume
Okay.
you didn't rewatch it for this.
I didn't rewatch it, but I would love to talk about it.
So, Election, 1999, packed
Yep.
year, as you know, starring Matthew Broderick and Reese Witherspoon. Reese Witherspoon is playing Tracy Flick, high school student running for student council president.
Who is like every perky, like little high school student you've ever hated.
Yeah. This movie, I guess I might as well mention this right off the bat. This movie reminded me a lot of Rushmore. She's very much kind of the Max Fisher figure.
Max Fisher, yeah, that's a fitting comparison.
There is one difference, which I'll talk about in a minute, but Matthew Broderick is upset about her running. She's running unopposed, and she also recently had an affair with Matthew Broderick's best friend that got him fired and disgraced. So he is very kind of against her, and he convinces like the former star quarterback who has like broken his leg and is off the team to run against her, and then his lesbian sister runs against him to like get back at him for
like stealing her girlfriend,
for unintentionally stealing her girlfriend, and it just becomes a huge clusterfuck. But it is very entertaining and very crazy. Matthew Broderick's also having like personal problems. Anyway, so I can compare this movie to Rushmore. There's a lot of similarities, but the difference is Rushmore has like one scene that kind of like crosses over like the line and becomes like a lot more kind of transgressive than most of Wes Anderson's movies. That scene where like the teacher's like, you know, what do you think we're gonna do, Max? Do you think we're gonna have sex? The difference is Election, the whole movie's like that. Like, this movie is dark.
The whole movie's made of shit like that.
This movie is dark to its core.
The Rushmore comparison only goes so insofar as that, like, the Wes Anderson world is very sentimental. The world of Alexander Payne is deeply cynical and deeply skeptical and deeply disturbing in some regard. Like the Matthew Broderick resolution is just so dark and disturbing, and how like there sometimes a lack of resolution is the resolution. Yeah.
Well, one thing I loved about this movie is that everyone in it, like the one good person in the entire movie, kind of seems to be Paul, the jock. Who
the idiot who runs for president.
Who at first you think is just like a nice guy just because he like never has any idea what's going on. But he is actually a genuine person. Like, you have a scene of like all the main characters praying like before the election, and like Paul's is the only one that's like actually he like is the only one who starts it by like saying, "Oh, thank you, God, for everything that I have," and you're like, "Shit,
for my abnormally large penis."
Well, no, he's like, what I'm told is an abnormally large penis. He's like, I don't know.
He's just maybe that's the thing about it. Like, maybe this is something within this movie is that like just accept what you have, whereas like everyone is like searching for more and always dissatisfied, and Paul's just, hey, I'm here. I'll take what I get. I've got what I told is an abnormally large penis. Life's good. Life's good. I will say, like, the use of narration in this is fucking hilarious.
Okay, I was about to bring that up. See, at first I wasn't like totally with the narration. I was like, oh, you could have done it without this. The moment when it all kind of clicked for me was when Paul started narrating, and then his sister started narrating, and I was like, okay, so we're just getting all the characters' perspectives here. Which I really liked, and
it's kind of an ensemble piece.
It kind of is.
Like, you would think it's all about Reese Witherspoon, but she's actually not as huge a figure in it as you might expect. If anything, it becomes more about Matthew Broderick by the end.
Yeah, I'd say Matthew Broderick is kind of the lead of the movie, and even the Paul's sister gets a kind of a complete storyline where she like tricks her parents into sending her to an all-girls Catholic school so she can indulge in her lesbian fantasies.
Like, this is a movie that has a scene where like Matthew Broderick is his girlfriend. Is it his girlfriend or his wife?
I think it's his wife.
He's fucking his wife, and Tracy Flick appears superimposed on his wife, telling him to fuck her.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
That is just such a strange and and wonderfully funny scene. And I think that's just indicative of the movie in a nutshell.
The other thing about this movie is that it is like a much better and more effective like satire of like middle class suburban life than American Beauty, which came out the same year. Like,
oh yeah,
they address kind of similar ideas with that, and just Election is way less up its own ass as far as those themes and ideas. But
let's think about like that's the thing is that like Alexander Payne realized this is like, hey, middle America is kind of funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is all kind of like I think, and we'll talk about this in Nebraska, where like where like Kate tells them, "You can go fuck yourselves."
That's a great scene.
Like, there's a bluntness and a sort of like whereas granted in this form of middle America where everyone's walking on eggshells, that's just kind of a funny thing.
Yeah.
Or like Alexander will milk that off. Like that's it. Like Alexander Payne gets comedy from where you might not think you could get it.
Yeah. Well, just one thing. I'm sure this wasn't even on purpose, but it's just a little thing that I really appreciated. In Election, like, Matthew Broderick has, like, a car where, like, the seatbelt, like, automatically goes, like, up and then, like, down to click into place. It's like a rolling mechanism. It's like kind of like a ski lift or almost. It's like, it's so weird. That's just, like, a visual flourish that I really enjoyed.
Well, that's it. Like, the best filmmakers are ones who put in detail, so...
Yeah. Election. I really enjoyed it.
I think, well, granted, like, the discussion about it, like, well, granted, like, if anything, it was the Hillary Clinton stuff in it, like, I'm not even too sure holds any water anymore because of what actually happened in the 2016 election.
Well, it's strange. I think Tracy Flick kind of is representative of, like, both of the Clintons. Like, this movie was based on a book, and I'm not sure when in the 90s the book came out, so I'm not sure if the Lewinsky scandal had broken yet, but you've got, you know, she's had a sexual affair that hasn't really damaged her reputation. She's, you know, an ambitious woman kind of seeking a position of authority. So she's kind of like a mashup of the two Clintons is kind of how I read that. And then...
Yeah. Well, granted, some people have tried like the Reed Paul as like a Trump figure or like the sister as a Trump figure. I'm not too sure that holds water.
Well, that definitely wasn't done intentionally because, you know, this movie came out in 1999. I think I think I read like the sister was much more intended to be like Ross Perot, like kind of a third party just coming in and like spoiling an election.
Yeah.
But...
Oh, goodness. Yeah, this movie's fascinating.
Yeah. It's excellent.
Like, it's the better American Beauty.
I'd say so. I do not like American Beauty, but that's a different conversation.
I haven't seen American Beauty. I've seen all sorts of think pieces about it, but I've never actually got about seeing it. It has Kevin Spacey, so
it is.
Maybe.
It is interesting. I will say that movie's like last major big like plot turn hinges on a sitcom. Like a misunderstanding worthy of a sitcom. Like it is, and no one seems to bring that up. But
bad. Okay then.
All right.
Let's see. So where do we want to go next?
I guess let's keep going chronologically. Should we talk about Sideways?
Let's talk about Sideways. God, Paul Giamatti is so fucking good in this movie.
Paul Giamatti is such an interesting performer, and his performance in this. You know, it's fascinating.
Like he seems like he is always like bubbling under the surface. Like no matter where he's at, like no matter what's going on, you always get the feeling like something is about to boil over. Like there is an odd tension to his performance. Yeah.
You kind of like, I mean, and they kind of established this, like, you know, he's kind of prone to outbursts, so you very much get the sense that he could just kind of go off at any second. And
yes,
you have Thomas Hayden Church, who I wasn't really sold on for a little bit, but by the end of it, I was kind of enjoying his just totally off the wall kind of personality. Not off the wall in the traditional in that sense, but he's getting married, in like less than a week. They go on this road trip, and he
wants to get some ass.
He basically reveals to Paul Giamatti that like all he wants to do is get laid, and he has two different like sexual misadventures that end in disaster.
One of which I think is an image I'll never forget.
You mean where Paul Giamatti opens the door and Thomas Hayden Church is standing there buck-ass naked with his hands over his crotch?
Yes.
Incredible.
You know, the Thomas Hayden Church character is kind of like, what if Paul grew up and became a bit more of an asshole? Like, he's someone who just doesn't have a thought in the world. He's motivated, like, I just want some ass. It's all I want. I don't care how I get it. I just want some ass before I get married. And he has no planning horizon, and Paul Giamatti's always there to say, like, what the fuck are you thinking?
Yeah. So this movie, Thomas Hayden Church is getting married. His friend Miles, played by Paul Giamatti, takes him on a week-long kind of trip up to wine country, where they kind of hang out and then end up kind of carousing with some local women. And Alexander Payne's then wife, Sandra Oh, of Grey's Anatomy fame, shows up. There's some very fun sequences where you kind of have Paul Giamatti just kind of wandering around, just all by himself, while Thomas Hayden Church is off fucking Sandra Oh.
Yeah. And the scene where he walks in and Thomas Hayden Church is literally hollowing it out and saying, "Not now, not now."
Have I shared this term with you? This is a term I've started using since I started watching a lot more R-rated movies. UMA, unexpected male ass.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's surprisingly common.
You get a lot of male ass in movies. I don't know.
What are we talking about? Let's talk about the movie.
Well, the thing about, like, Sideways, like, covers, like, a lot of the same ground as, like, other movies, whereas, like, it's about ennui, it's about sort of trying to find meaning, but often just finding obstacles to it whatsoever. It's oddly like it is a story about being alone.
Yeah.
About just being constantly alone and isolated, and what that means to the main character, but also while being really funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that's just such an odd... I don't know how Alexander Payne does it.
It is a hilarious movie that also manages to deal with, like, deep-seated, like, melancholy and loneliness. Like,
yes.
Paul Giamatti, like, you kind of... He says this, like, half his life is over and he has nothing to show for it. It's definitely, like, a midlife crisis movie. Also, I think this movie, like, I loved it, but it must play even better if you're, like, a wine person. Like, so much of this movie is devoted to, like, wine connoisseurship.
Yeah, like, that's... Like, the only way he can relate to people is if they're into wine. Like, that's his whole... Like, if he can't talk about wine with them, it's just over.
Yeah. And,
like, well, granted, a lot of this movie is just, like, them at wineries, and then Paul Giamatti saying it's shit, and then Thomas Hayden Church going, well, I kind of like it. I love how wine country is, like, this is something, like, Alexander Payne presents things that are, like, oh, like, these romantic things we see in, like, American cinema, wine country.
Right. And
he presents them in a way that makes them seem like the most hollow thing possible.
Yeah.
And that's really funny.
Right.
There's terrible local restaurants everywhere.
What was I gonna... Oh, shit. Also, the wine is a metaphor for people. There is a scene which it's like they talk about how, like, the aging process of Pinot and, like, how it can only be, like, cultivated in, like, a specific place by, like, someone with a lot of patience, which should feel on the nose, but somehow totally works. Partly just because you're really rooting for Paul Giamatti to, like, not blow it with this woman, but...
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the thing about it is that, like, well, great, like, this is the sort of, it's the Alexander Payne Middle America world of everyone's kind of walking on eggshells. So when you kind of get a bluntness like that, it's actually kind of refreshing.
Yeah.
And granted, like, I think Alex said, like, gee, I wonder if they're talking about wine. Okay, but that's a great scene, and that's, like, a great little conversation. I think, like, Alexander Payne is really good at capturing, like, all the little awkward moments in conversation, even like in these really fleshed out, full conversations, there's still like pauses and people not quite knowing where to go next, and not interpreting signals properly. This movie's fascinating.
Yeah, he has such a tonal control where he can like just rock back and forth between them. Like this movie, I think goes pretty quickly from a scene where like Paul Giamatti kind of talks about how he's like too insignificant to kill himself, to a scene where a fully nude man like runs out and smears himself on their car window. So make of that what you will.
After we see a scene where he's fucking his wife, and they're doing, and apparently the kink is that she slept with Thomas Hayden Church. And Paul Giamatti just has to sit there and watch it and then go and grab Thomas Hayden Church's wallet.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how you construct that scene.
It's a movie that is supremely funny and entertaining, and also just one of the most deeply human movies I think I've ever seen.
It's a wryly funny take on melancholy and ennui.
Yeah.
And we don't get enough of those.
Yeah.
Alexander Payne is really unique, is what I'm finding. Like, I can't quite think of another filmmaker quite like him who takes on the same subjects that he does in the same kind of style that he does.
Yeah, and like watching his movies, I feel like sometimes like while you're watching them, like moment to moment, it's like very entertaining and very interesting. But you don't really like get the full impact of it until you finish it, and you're like, oh, well, that was a very fascinating experience what I just watched.
Yeah. What you are watching in theory should be boring, but they're just little things in it that just make it so a fascinating viewing.
Yeah.
But regardless, we love Sideways.
Yeah, great movie. Great performances. Paul Giamatti, man, let's get him in more stuff. What's he been up to lately?
I remember him in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 in that great performance.
I forgot about that. Look, no one came out of that movie looking good, okay? I love Emma Stone. I think Jamie Foxx is an interesting performer. Paul Giamatti is great. Andrew Garfield has done interesting things. Just no one came out of that movie looking good.
No. Oh, God. What has Paul Giamatti been in lately other than...
I don't know. I think he's been mostly doing bit parts. I hear he was in a movie called Win-Win, which was directed by Tom McCarthy, which I heard was very good.
He's a very particular performer, so it's kind of difficult. It could be easy to typecast him, yet that just hasn't happened.
Yeah.
So let's move on to Nebraska.
2013's Nebraska. First movie where Alexander Payne does not have screenwriting credit on it.
No, yeah, he's.
But
it's all God. Who's the screenwriter again?
Bob Nelson, I believe, is his name.
Bob Nelson, yeah, that's right.
I'm not sure if he's written anything else, but somehow this movie just still feels like a singular Alexander Payne experience.
Yeah, like it's still, granted, like how much of that is, granted, I think it has kind of a different structure than normally. Well, granted, like the location is very Payne-esque, whereas like we're going to like, we're in rural and middle America, just like going to like these lowly places, seeing like lowly people.
Yeah, well, yeah, it does have kind of a more like a straightforward kind of plot structure than most of his movies. It's less just kind of rambling because there is an end point. There is a goal that they're trying to get to.
There isn't narration, is there?
The what?
There isn't any narration, is there?
Nope, no narration. There's
no narration.
Long black and white shots of the Nebraskan landscape, which I love.
Which are beautiful in their ugliness.
Yeah. So this movie, Bruce Dern is an elderly man who seems to be just on the brink of dementia, basically.
There is kind of like the movie never addresses it. It's kind of implied that he has Alzheimer's or at least at the very early stages of Alzheimer's.
Yeah. So he has received a scam letter basically that says he's won $1 million, and
you have to come to Lincoln, Nebraska to pick up your prize, and so on and so forth.
So he becomes convinced that he has to go to Lincoln, Nebraska. He lives in Montana with his wife and his son, and his son is played by Will Forte, and he
Yep.
eventually just to kind of shut him up, he decides to indulge him and go on a road trip with him.
Well, that's the thing about Bruce Dern keeps trying to walk to Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yeah.
Like the movie begins where it's like he's just walking on the side of the road and the cops come and are like, "Hey, buddy, where are you going?"
Yeah.
And they always have to haul him back.
Yep. And like you get the sense like June Squibb, who is outstanding in this movie, plays his wife, and
Oh God, she's so good.
she's kind of on her last nerve. She's ready to just
Yeah.
put him in a nursing home. So they kind of embark on this journey. They end up stopping over in the town where he kind of grew up and spent his childhood and like the early parts of his married life.
Yep.
Run into some of his old friends,
and it's not quite sure whether he remembers it or whether he's actually triggering any memories. It's kind of that's one of the most fascinating things about this movie is that all we learn about Woody is from other people.
Yeah.
We learn very little about Woody from Woody himself because he's just so much of like a monolith and so tied in like the early stages of dementia, possibly.
Yeah. Well, like they make a point of saying like he's always kind of been a man of few words, and like after he was in the Korean War, it just kind of got worse, and he Bruce Dern,
his drinking problem.
Yeah, he was an alcoholic, but Bruce Dern is kind of adorable in this movie. Like you kind of can't help but love him. Like
okay. He is just like this lost old man, and that's just inherently sympathetic. Like, the most satisfying thing in the movie is when, like, I think it's Ed Pegram in the movie, like, gets like the scam letter and reads it out as a joke, and here comes Bruce Dern, just walks up, grabs it, walks away, not a single word, and it just feels like the saddest thing ever.
Yeah.
And then Will Forte just punches him in the fucking face.
Yeah. Well, Bruce Dern, it's a sign of like just how great a performer he is and what a great performance this is, that he is able to like make Woody's long silences like feel different depending on what the moment calls for. Like sometimes it's frustrating, sometimes it's just perplexing, sometimes it's just so sad.
I think one of the seminal moments for me is like when they go back to like his like family home and he's just staring at the field and like Will Forte asks like, "Did you want a farm like this?" And Bruce Stern says like, "I can't remember."
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't matter now. And then he just walks away. Like there's like that's like it's a sort of like this is sort of the embodiment of like everyone's walking on eggshells, but you have like Kate and Woody are like this blunt locomotive of a unit, and like you'll just like Kate will just every once like the scene where like they visit the cemetery.
Oh, it's so good.
This is what you could have had.
Oh my goodness.
He was always trying to feel me up.
June Squibb, her character in this movie is just always saying just whatever comes into her head. Like basically going by what she says, basically the whole town wanted to sleep with her.
These people are looking at the ass of a cow for all their life. The moment they get a woman, they don't know what to do.
Oh my goodness. And it's such a great just kind of like tone poem about just middle America that also ends up becoming a great like father-son bonding story. Like Will Forte, who's great in this, he and his dad just kind of end up spending some time together, and you get a great moment at the end, like after they've kind of gone into the office and all is revealed that he doesn't actually win any money.
Something that we already knew. But it was kind of like this kind of summation for Woody.
But throughout the whole movie, Woody's been saying, like, I'm going to buy a truck and a new air compressor. Will Forte just buys both those things for him, and he lets him drive the truck, like, down the main street in the town so everyone can see him driving it.
Goodbye shots of the people we've met.
Yeah.
And, like...
Maybe my favorite of those is when they go by his brother sitting on a chair in the front lawn, and he just waves. He's like, "Bye, Woody."
Bye, Woody. This movie's adorable.
It's so good, and
like, it's about as dark as every other Alexander Payne picture, but like there is kind of a sincerity to its world that is untypical for Alexander Payne.
I think you get the sense that like there are a lot of like cynical and like not great people in this movie. Don't get me wrong. You get
Yeah.
those idiot cousins who like try to steal
2
the
days to get from Billings.
yeah, who are like just can't get over the fact that it took him 2 days to get to from Montana to the Nebraska town because he drove the speed limit.
Yeah.
Anyway, so but like the main characters, like you get the sense that like maybe Woody wasn't a great father. He was an alcoholic. Maybe there's stuff in his past that he might not be too proud of, but.
Yeah, he might be a questionable figure.
Yeah, but he and Will Forte both seem like fundamentally like trying to be good people, and they are very likable, and that's kind of interesting to see in an Alexander Payne movie, and they pull it off.
The thing about the Woody character is like one of the interesting things they established that like he could never say no.
Yeah.
That like part of like why he was always in financial issues was that he was constantly like doing odd jobs for people.
Yeah.
And like he could just never say no to people. And contrasted with what he's become, that is just such an interesting tidbit.
Yeah.
Yeah, granted, it's also a movie about like just how different age makes you.
Right.
And how different like some people just never change, whilst others like Woody is just so hollowed out from what he was. And it is both just so sad to see. Like it's an Alzheimer's, it's a dementia movie, and those are so rare.
Yeah,
like to see like somebody like you, like your own father, just kind of be just so hollowed out and just so confused about his surroundings and where he is, and not really understanding what he's doing outside of like a few like core tenets. And how heartbreaking that is. Like so much of this movie is like Will Forte just like silently just like kind of just like sort of resonating on like how like what his father has become, and what not only and be more than like what he was before in comparison.
Yeah. And
also like that's another thing is like it's about like Will Forte figuring out who his father really is.
Right. Yeah, you get that scene where kind of he goes to the newspaper office in the town to kind of explain that there's no story, like they're interested in doing a story that Woody's become a millionaire. He's like, no, there's no story here. And he kind of receives some like background on his father that he just didn't know. And like, he sees like an old copy of the newspaper where it's like the Grant boys returned from Korea. And, he's kind of confronting part of his father's past that he never knew about, which is just fascinating.
Yeah, sorry, and granted, that woman's just fucking adorable. Granted, like when the relationship people have with their fathers is that like there's kind of like this glorified image of them as a person, because like they've always been an authority figure in your life.
Yeah,
and it's hard to view them in any other context, and to view and to learn things about them. We go like, wait a minute, my dad was a real person, and like these are the people that surrounded him, and wait a minute, people were fighting over him. Or something like that. That's God, like the atmosphere in this fucking movie.
Yeah. I kind of love small town movies, and this is one of the great examples of that.
Yeah, like this depiction of rural America, as someone who's experienced rural America via my own family, it's about as accurate as it gets.
Yeah,
this is you're gonna get. Sometimes you're just gonna get like really sweet people, and sometimes you're just gonna get pricks. That's how it is. Like I love this movie.
It's a great movie.
This might be my favorite Alexander Payne movie.
Yeah, I watched this movie, I think, for the first time at some point last year, and rewatching it now, I was really just totally taken with it. It's great.
Yeah, like I can't. Great, like it's something where it's like I kind of was thinking about this last night. It's like, why is it in black and white?
Mm.
It's the kind of black and white where it's just very obvious that they shot in color and then just went back through it with a filter.
Mm.
And it's the kind of way it's like we are removing colors from this. We are removing layers from this world. And I guess you can sort of see that as a reflection of Woody.
Yeah.
As someone who has seen the world been stripped away, right, knowingly or not, before his very eyes. As far as it just, I think like one of my favorite scenes is when they go to that house.
Yeah.
And they just see like, and of course like the great like, oh, it's about how your mother kept it. And we see like this place where it's like, yeah, my father built this place, and we see this house that has just been stripped away.
Yeah.
just by the passing of time and how much that just represents Woody and what has become of him.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I was like, yeah, pretentious inclinations aside, there's also just like really funny scenes where Kate says, "Go, you can go fuck yourself." So
yeah.
God, Alexander Payne, man, what a fucking filmmaker.
Yeah, that's kind of been the big find of this week. Just what a filmmaker, he's someone who deserves to be mentioned more often. I think
he deserves to be in the canon.
Yeah.
I think is like, who else makes movies like this?
Yeah.
Like, if we are to judge auteurs purely by their style, which we shouldn't, then like, where the fuck is this guy? Like this guy is far more of a style than like any hey, there's more of a style here than a lot of other people in the canon per se.
Yeah.
And it's a style we love. So it's
Yep.
granted, like, I'm like, who doesn't like Alexander Payne? Like, do these people exist?
I don't know. I don't think I've met people that just haven't really heard of him and don't care, but
Yeah, well,
although
that's just the bane of all cinema studies, where you're just like, oh, I haven't heard of them.
my mother did see The Descendants and hated it, but that's but I think she would like Nebraska, so I don't know. Well, maybe that's just a fluke.
Maybe I should show my mother Nebraska, because I think she'd get a lot out of it. Because, like, granted, like, I think my late grandfather, I can't quite, he never had Alzheimer's, but he was kind of like this. He was a similar blunt character who we were constantly wondering, like, is he aware of the world around him, or is he kind of just stuck in his little, like, in his chair watching Fox News and getting favors from the local sheriff? So, Tyler, what are we doing next week?
That is a good question. I'm not sure.
Reed's back, so maybe we could finally do those German films.
That might be a good idea, but I don't know what we would do.
Granted, I'm going to be seeing this movie later, so maybe I could just get it out of the way. Have you guys ever seen Downfall?
I have not.
That's the movie about. That's the movie. Granted, have you ever seen the meme clip of Hitler blowing up at his generals? And his guns?
I'm not sure I have.
Yeah, those are a big thing on the internet. Well, this is a movie about like the last days of Hitler in his bunker, and like it's this really fascinating. It's a really fascinating biopic, and also like a depiction of like the world, like this bubble that the Nazis had created around themselves. So that's a really interesting movie. Lots of other German. We could just go into German expressionism. Like I really want to talk about these movies at some point. Oh yeah, I forgot what other films I watched. I watched Nazi Propaganda.
Okay. Did you finally see Triumph of the Will?
I've never actually. Here's the thing about Triumph of the Will was assigned, but it was a case where I'm like, no, I'm not watching this. I am not watching this. I will watch like 10 minutes of it and get what I need, and then go to Wikipedia. I am not watching this. I don't need Triumph of the Will. The movies I watched are actual narrative films, and they're actually kind of goddamn fascinating. One of which is called The Request. I'm sorry, this is so like on the tail end.
No,
like maybe we can do some things in editing. One of them is called Request Concert. And like it's this film that starts at the 1936 Olympics, where like these two people meet and they bond over seeing Hitler at the Olympics, and like then later on that I think they don't get engaged, but like one of them like I think the male has to go to Spain as part of like a secret mission in the Spanish Civil War to support Franco, so they just don't see each other. And then a little later, the war in Poland breaks out, and like the movie's oddly about like the communal experience of the radio, and how like all of Germany, the home front and the war front, is united by the radio and this request concert that they play, where they have like faux jazz musicians, and they play Beethoven, and everyone's like, oh, Beethoven. And like there's a scene in this movie where it's like there's like two battalions are separated, and one of them are holed up in a church, so he plays the organ to let them know where they are, and they get there and the place is on fire and he's been killed at the organ, the hero. This movie's actually fascinating. I actually kind of like this movie. because like all the performers are really charismatic. Like it's really difficult to have a kid. I think I talked about it because I watched these both this movie for my class on German history, and like when I discussed this with my professor is that like it is really difficult to have a critical eye about these things because you were so aware of the regime that made these and what was going on when these movies were made.
Right.
And so it is so difficult, but like that's like the request concert is something that's actually really entertaining and it's really well made and like that's a difficult it's about a love triangle and all it's a very magnanimous egalitarian love triangle where people there's kind of like admiration on all sides and no love lost wherever. So it's actually enjoyable to watch if you can get past the fact that it's actual goddamn Nazi propaganda. There's another movie I watched, and this was odd because it was made in 1944, but it's in color.
Okay.
It's in color. It's called The Great Sacrifice. And it's again about a love. That's the thing about that's the thing about Nazi propaganda is oddly lots of melodramas and like things not about the war, things not deliberately propaganda, because like whenever they do actual like full on propaganda, it did horribly. Mm-hmm. Because like people just didn't want to see it. Like they made a film called The Rothschilds about like the Rothschilds, and it was like this huge conspiracy theory of a film, and nobody liked it. Nobody wanted to see it.
Well,
they also made like.
Well, I don't have too much experience with these movies, but the parts of Inglourious Bastards where they talk about the German film industry or the Nazi film industry are just fascinating.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like granted, like there's also like UFA, like there's like the continued nationalization of the film industry and UFA, and so forth. So like, yeah, the German film is fascinating in the Nazi age. Like The Great Sacrifice has a scene where like people are reading Nietzsche. And like they're in all the blinds are closed. One of the characters says like, "Oh, this is rubbish," and he opens the blinds. There's life out there. I do not need Nietzsche and these macabre nocturnes. You people are rubbish. And the movie ends on like this fascinating dream sequence where they're overlaying like two people are sick in bed. And they're overlaying each other on like to this magical gate and this magical beach. And in the dream, he reveals that I love you, but I must stay with my wife. And so it is so strange and so fascinating. I can't recommend any of these movies because they're actual goddamn Nazi propaganda, but like...
Sounds like something fascinating that I will never watch.
Yeah, it is an experience I will never be able to replicate.
Yeah.
And of course, there are all the ideas of like, granted, like Goebbels, like apparently like socialist thinker like Zeke and philosophers like Zeke, I can't remember his first name, thinks that the Great Sacrifice is his second favorite movie.
Well, people ride hard for Leni Riefenstahl's Olympia, so...
Olympia, yeah, that's the thing about, like, granted, like, the cult of personality around Leni Riefenstahl is Nazi propaganda within itself, because, like, the Nazis did a lot to try and justify, like, not only Triumph of the Will as propaganda, but as an extension of art form, as cinema as an art form. I'll send you, like, there's an excellent, like, video essay on Triumph of the Will and Leni Riefenstahl in general that I'll send you. That's about kind of like the myth making that the Nazis did, along with the myth making within the movie. So yeah, Nazis. So next week we'll be doing something before the Nazis.
Yes,
but oddly, sometimes about the Nazis.
Sure.
How about we'll just say like to be continued insofar as like what films we're doing, because I want to talk about Reed about this because Reed's also a scholar of German history.
All right.
And I'm curious I'm curious whether he'd like want to do. Maybe we could do like modern German cinema as like one of the films we do, and like this, and have like a broad discussion about German cinema in relation to its history, which I think would be really fascinating.
Yeah. All right, so we'll be back next week with some kind of German film episode. We'll see what
you get on that Wikipedia of German history page.
Oh boy. We'll see what happens. All right.
Oops.
Goodbye, everybody.
Godspeed. Did I watch anything else? I've had to have seen something else. Not Mount Rushmore. Post German expressionism, but
the poster is horrifying.
Ooh, I love it.